you guys know how the format's going to work today, we're going to do like a little panel style. So if you would imagine me as your favorite talk show host, I don't know who that might be. You know, it might be Oprah Winfrey, it might be Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know who it is, but just imagine me as just one of the facilitators of the conversation. So we're going to be very conversational today about things that we're talking about. And I actually just thought of this, like if you guys have little kids, or you've had little kids, or even if you have grandkids, the word of the day is increase. All right, so the word of the day is increase. And so we're just going to let you guys tell everybody who you are, what you do, actually not just at the church, but what you do for a living. Because I think that's important so people know that, yes, you might be involved here, but you also are in the marketplace as well. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, Adam gave me the mic first, so I guess I'll go first. My name is Samantha Hill, and here I volunteer on the tech team, and I lead a small group. And in the workplace, I'm an architect for Farnsworth Group, and we're doing good building stuff. So.
Well, hi, I'm Brad Hiller, and here at the church, I do a little bit of everything. So sometimes I'm on worship team.
There you go.
I'm a co-family life director, so I'm helping out presently with kids ministries that are going on. And family life also involves building family relationships. So then we recently we helped co-lead a marriage course, and we work with financial ministries as well, so anything related to family. Outside of the church, I teach math at a high school in town, Normal Community High School. I teach calculus and algebra 2. And
my brain can't even guys.
And I also am a doctoral student at Illinois State University, working on my dissertation right now. So I tell people that I'm one paper away from being Dr. Heller. And yet it seems like forever. So I've been in that for 6 years. And it's going to be another year or two. Don't tell Charlie that.
She might see this later if she watches the service, so just so you know.
My name is Scott Mead. Here at the church, second service, I'm with the kids in Kingdom Kids. We have lots of fun, and we're going to talk more about that later. We also lead a small group in El Paso, so if you are up that direction, we're more than willing to have you on Tuesday nights. And then for my 9-to-5 job, or whatever it is, I work for Frontier Communications, install internet, phone. I do a lot of pole climbing for fun. So.
You might want to specify that you climb poles.
I
He climbs poles, guys.
But my only request is, if every time we say increase, can it be like Pee Wee's Playhouse, where we all like,
There you go. Just to tell you a little bit about myself too, so you guys know who I am. I did say that I am also the lead pastor here with my husband Adam, but I also work in the marketplace. I work for Illinois State University with one of the grant programs. So you can see that we kind of have a broad range, that even though we're serving in the church, we're still out in the world. And that's our ministry in those areas too. But so I just want to kind of talk to you guys today, since Scott, you have the mic first. I am going to ask you this one question, and then everybody's going to kind of answer these questions and how they feel about them. And just to let you guys know, they did get the questions ahead of time, so they are prepared, hopefully. I'm just kidding. I know they are. We've been talking a lot about this as a leadership team and as a staff, and so we really felt that these guys would be great people for you guys to know, because you don't always get to see them, and sometimes, like they said, they're serving back in kids ministry, so you don't even know they're here half the time. But so the first question is, what's the biggest win you've seen in the last 3.5 years in our church?
Adam sent out a message this week that I think will answer that one, and that is it 39 baptisms?
Yeah.
So as a church, we love to see lives get changed. You know, when God puts his hand in you and changes everything. I mean, for me, I'm one of the baptisms, so that might be part of why I consider it one of the big wins. Because I was very comfortable with church until I came to this church. I was very comfortable with my relationship with God before I came to this church. And so this church is a challenge. And I think as it relates to the word increase, I think God is increasing the number of lives that are going to get changed.
Amen.
That's good.
And that's a prayer as well as a praise.
Before you go, can you
Yeah.
kind of expound a little bit on why you feel like this church has been a challenge for you in your faith?
Sure.
You said you were comfortable, so.
Yeah. So I had a very narrow theology. It was very basic. I guess the best example is I had a really awesome box that God fit into. Third week, they took away the box. So that's pretty much.
That's great.
If you need more details, I'll be glad to share.
If you guys need any help getting out of boxes, apparently we can help you do that. So, go ahead, Sam.
Well, I'll just piggyback on the word box. In the last 3.5 years, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is our Thanksgiving box outreach. And I was there for the first one when we did 10 boxes. And I just remember a sense of excitement that we were reaching 10 families, and we were so excited about that. And it's great to look back on that and see that excitement kind of increase to where we're doing 150 boxes this year. And it's the same excitement, it just is bigger. And I think that's the biggest win that I see. It's the amount of life change that's happening outside of the church because of the generosity of the people in the church.
That's good.
So these two stole my answers.
Come on, Teacher Brad, get on your feet.
I was going to start by saying life change, and I was going to mention the baptisms and all that. Even my son was one of them that got baptized. But I was also thinking about life change in our neighborhoods. In other words, literally my neighbors started coming to church and they have experienced life change, but at the same time, we have experienced our lives have been changed by our neighbors in a good way. And I hope that theirs have been in a good way too. And, Adam and Corrie moved into their neighborhood and their whole neighborhood has experienced a fresh influx of life change in a positive way. They do things together all the time. And I believe the same to be true with Sam and Chuck's neighborhood. I feel like when they moved into their new house, I think that they're just bringing it a life change. And I was thinking about the example in the Bible about being a lighthouse, up on a hill. And I think that we can shine God's goodness to our neighborhoods and bring his peace in a way that doesn't make sense to others around. Why is it that things are maybe more peaceful, or why do I feel that sense around you? It's because of the life change that we're bringing to our communities.
That's good. Amen. That's good. And I think too, is we've talked about this. If you've been a part of our church for a while, we walk into the pews, we carry something different because we're carrying the kingdom with us, and that kingdom breaks into the darkness. And so when you go into neighborhoods or you go into your workplace and you have that experience, you are different. They see something different about you, and that's what attracts you to them, because you're like, what do you have that I don't? And so that's really good about life change. So, okay, next question. What first attracted you to the Vineyard's vision?
So I started going to the Vineyards somewhere around 14 or 15 years ago, back when we lived in Urbana. And I can't remember the exact first sermon that I heard, but I can remember one of the first sermons that sticks in my memory is from Di Lehman. And when she was preaching, I can't even remember what she was preaching about even, but there was a little snippet in there where she mentioned something about women in leadership and how the Vineyard holds that to a high value. And something clicked in my mind and I was like, wait a second. Thinking back through my previous church experiences, I feel stupid for not having noticed it, but I hadn't noticed the lack of women up at the pulpit preaching. And then it just started clicking in my head, wait a second, the Bible actually, and they actually laid it out in a very logical way, which actually appeals to me quite a bit.
The whole calculus thing, guys.
So that was one of the first things that attracted me about the Vineyard's vision is promoting women in leadership to the point where it's actually in the global Vineyard bylaws, as far as I understand. So that's one thing. And another thing was, I don't know if this is considered Vineyard vision or more so Happy Layman's vision, but he had a vision back in Urbana where he kept on dreaming big, dreaming about the future, about what may be. And he was always talking about how cool would it be if our church just donated like $1 million to a school district and said, here, revitalize a building, or, you know, here's some money to go and redo this or that, or help out with this project or that project. And the thing that appealed to me was the dreaming beyond what we currently have, and the dreaming about practical, positive change in our community. And that's something I really grabbed a hold of, and something I think that we are bringing to the Bloomington-Normal and surrounding areas in this church.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So back in March, I think, of this year, we did a Vision Sunday here, and we talked about the vision for our Bloomington-Normal campus, and I wrote down 5 different visions, the vision statements.
She came so prepared. It's the
I'm sorry.
architect in her. I love it.
So just real briefly, engage Jesus in purposeful worship, engage the next generation in purposeful programming, engage the adults in purposeful groups, engage the city in purposeful outreach, and engage leaders in purposeful teams. And the thing that I'm kind of grabbing onto is that word purposeful. And for me, it's making sure that everything that we do here has a purpose, and that aligns so well with the way that we were created. We have purpose in our own lives, and to kind of grow our purpose individually and then also collectively as the church, I think has been really pivotal for me to know that, you know, when we're here on a Sunday, it's the purpose of worshiping Jesus. When we have a Holy Spirit night, any event that we have, it's for a very specific purpose. And one of the things that I like is the one about groups, because I am a small group leader, and we were just talking about this on Tuesday. We were talking about the Ephesians 6 passage, and I also wrote it down because I just want to read it again, and this is from the Message. Be prepared. You're up against far more than you can handle on your own. Take all the help you can get, every weapon God has issued, so that when it's all over but the shouting, you'll still be on your feet. Truth, righteousness, peace, faith, and salvation are more than words. Learn how to apply them. You'll need them throughout your life. God's word is an indispensable weapon. In the same way, prayer is essential in this ongoing warfare. Pray hard and pray long. Pray for your brothers and sisters, and keep your eyes open. Keep each other's spirits up so that no one falls behind or drops out. And the thing that we talked about on Tuesday was we do have this burden for our brothers and sisters to make sure that they keep their spirits up, that they keep in purposeful groups, that they keep sharing life with each other, so that we don't fall behind or drop out. And I think that's the thing that stands out to me the most about our vision, is that we really want life change for each other, not just me. I want life change for my brothers and sisters around me.
It's good.
So I've only been going to the Vineyard. My first visit was about 9 years ago, I want to say. Adam and Corrie invited us over. Adam was the small groups pastor over there in Urbana. So we went over, and I remember Hat preaching, and I don't remember the entire summation of the sermon, but I remember this phrase. Hap looked at everybody and said, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, the kingdom of heaven has no ties to either. And for me, like if I look back on every Facebook memory I have, because I don't remember personally, but everything I used to write was very political in nature. And now I don't care. I mean, I just... so that attracted me initially to Vineyard, was just that whole, we have something greater than a politic. We have the kingdom of heaven on our side. The other thing is, I remember we were at the Chateau, and it was or not the Chateau, but the Park Regency. Very first sermon series they played the video of John Wimber with the cartoon about everybody getting to play, the animated version of everybody getting to play. And it's awesome coming to a church that not only are you fed like a lesson, but there's practical ways for you to go out and change your community with what we do here. And that's part of that increase, that God is continuing to empower us and send us out. And that's awesome. Like, my favorite line that Wimber says in that whole thing is, when I worked on Satan's team, he let me do all the stuff for him. So, you know, it's awesome that God lets us do that as well, and empowers us to do that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of increase, like when you hear the word increase, what does that actually mean to you?
Two things for me on this. One is that when I thought of the word increase, I had this vision of God's presence just becoming more and more. And the character that came to my mind was the character of Moses. And in Exodus 33, Moses is pleading with God because God's like, I'm done, I'm killing these people. They're ridiculous. And Moses is like, no, don't kill them, please. Give them, forgive them, think of you don't want to start over. And Moses is pleading and pleading and pleading on their behalf and interceding on his behalf. And then at the end of that, Moses goes, after God says, okay, I'll spare them. And then Moses says, show yourself to me. And I just find it awesome that God's presence resides on Moses when he's interceding on behalf of the people. And so the increase is that as we intercede on behalf of our communities, on behalf of our families, sorry, I'm a hands talker. Yeah, I do better with the Britney Spears mic. But when we intercede on behalf of our communities, the people that we know that are struggling, God's presence is going to increase in that situation, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it too, that not only when we increase and we pray and intercede, like God talks about the rest that we receive. And so if you want to talk a little bit more about that too, because I think...
there's a promise that God says, I will send my presence and my rest. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the promise of rest is always a good thing in my mind. And then really my number 2 is about the next generation. So I work with our Kingdom kids, and it is a blast every Sunday to just give them some of those vineyard values. And I'll never forget our first lesson that we had to do on the 5-step prayer model. And I'm new to the vineyard. I don't know anything about this. And Ethne, who's back there, just basically came up to our class and modeled the whole thing for us. Basically she taught me while I was supposed to be teaching the kids about how to pray for one another. And if you just hear their prayers for each other, it is powerful. So if you ever want to sit in, we'll gladly let you sit in.
Well, and that's a push for like our Kingdom Kids ministry. If you ever want those kids to pray for you, man, those kids, like I can guarantee that when I don't feel good and my little kids and my children put their hands on me to pray, I feel better, guys. Like there is no lack of faith in them. They've had nothing in them yet to tell them that they shouldn't believe in the Father healing somebody.
Amen. Yeah. That's right.
And so if you ever want prayer, have those kids pray for you because their faith is so persistent because they only know a good Father. And they don't have that mindset yet of all the things in the world. And so, yeah.
Yeah, when I hurt my foot, so I was at like an 8 coming to the first Sunday. And like, they were not going to stop praying until it was at least a 2. God bless them.
Okay, when I hear the word increase, I'm kind of transported back in time to when I was still in Urbana. So I've been at the Urbana campus until we moved here, starting in 2007. And the first few years were fine, and then we started this growth initiative called Crescendo. So this was April and May of 2012. And this was just an all-church growth initiative, both personally, like what is God doing in your life, and then corporately as a church, where is He taking us, and how are we growing? So when I hear the word increase, I go back to those times. And so that was in April or May, and it took me until the fall of that year, 2012, to actually start listening to the words of encouragement that were spoken over me in those crescendo months. Words of encouragement that I didn't want to believe about myself. So in the fall of that year, I decided, you know what, I'm going to say yes. We started doing these crescendo stories, like the stories of what we're saying yes to in this new season. So I decided I was going to listen to the words of encouragement from the people around me and from God. And I decided that I was going to take a leap of faith and be one of the female leaders in the college age group at the time. So it was really scary. But I was excited about it with just a small dose of nervousness, but the excitement kind of overtook the nervousness about it. And I continued to do the college age ministry for the last 3 semesters of my graduate career. And then I moved into leading a young adult small group. And then I moving here to Bloomington and leading a young adult small group. And I think when I hear the word increase, it's still that same level of excitement and also that little bit of nervousness because it's things that I don't think that I'm capable of doing on my own. And I know that means that it's going to be a bigger increase in my personal life.
That's good. That's really good.
There's so many good things you guys just said. Sam's one of the best small group leaders that I've seen, and I had the opportunity to coach her a little bit over the years in that with my wife Charlie, and she brings something to the small group setting that's just I guess I would describe it as raw, and people feel like they can be real with you because you bring a sense of safety when you're talking to you. If anybody has a chance to talk to Sam later.
Look at that word of encouragement. You just got another one. See?
Yeah. So increase. I was praying about this, and I feel like there's the obvious answers that come to my mind, like increase in, what does it mean to me? Like, okay, increase in God's presence in my life, God's presence in our church, and I do believe that those things are beginning and they are happening. But God kept giving me this picture of something that at first did not seem like it connected at all. And I just kept saying, okay, well, press into that. Like, what are you trying to tell me, God? So I'll tell you the story, and we'll see the connection, I hope, at the end. So, 30-second story. Because I know Corey's like, where are we going with this? My wife and I recently had our 4th son. And there's something, I think, magical almost about when they learn how to speak and then when they learn what those words mean. So, like, one of the first words our newest son, Samuel, said was dad, 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 which is a pretty typical thing for babies to say, either mama, mama, or dad, dad, dad. So he said that, and that was cool when he said that for the first time, like, warms your heart a little bit. But just recently, maybe it was a week or 2 ago, I came home from work. He's laying on a blanket with some of his toys. He looked over at me, and he said, Dad, Dad. Like, he knew the words, but then he could see and make that connection in his head, like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
And that's the level of increase that I think is coming to all of us, where we can turn. I don't know what that looks like for us. We can metaphorically turn, and we can see, that's my Father.
That's good, man.
And I don't know, I just felt like the chills. Probably because it's my own son. But if you're feeling something, that's not because I'm a good speaker, because I'm not. It's because God is moving in this room, in this space right now. And He's calling you and saying, all you need to do is turn to me. I will meet you where you're at. You don't need to be good enough. You don't need to rise to a certain level. This kind of goes back to vision. Yeah. One of the things that attracted me about the vineyard is come as you are.
Amen. Yeah.
You don't have to raise to a certain level before you can join into leadership. All you need to do is say, I want to be part of this vision and step in. And that's Hap saying is everybody gets to play, and he means it, and we all mean it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's good. I'm so excited to hear because like so many different, we all have this different idea of what increase can look like, you know, and just introspectively right now, like as we go on, we have one more question we want to do, but like kind of just like think about what do I feel like God and what the Father is asking me to step into in this next season? What increase does he want to give to me? Because it's not just about us like searching after the increase, it's actually partnering with the Father, because the Father always wants to increase you into something. He always wants you to go deeper into something, because that's relationship. And when you're in a relationship with somebody, you always want to go deeper into something, right? If you're married, you always want to go deeper into your marriage. If you're dating somebody, you always want to go deeper because you want to get to know that person and you want to increase your relationship with him. And that's the same with them. That's the same idea that this is. Like the Father in this next season and over the next couple of years, as we've pressed into this, we really feel like the Father is asking us to step into the next season of increase. Mm-hmm. Where is our relationship going with the Father? Where is that increase going to come? And it's going to look different for all of us because we're all on a different faith journey.
Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is he wants to increase. Yeah. He wants to increase in the community. He wants to increase in your personal life, in your marriage, in your relationships, in your work, like whatever it's at. He wants to use you to increase in your current situation. And that's what the idea is. And so our last question is in what ways will God bring you? Is God, like I know you guys have prayed about this and you've thought about this, but in what ways will God be bringing the increase for the next coming years? Like how do you guys feel as you prayed about it that the Father has shown you a picture of what that increase will be, maybe for you personally, but for the church corporately as well?
Yeah, so for me personally, I feel like I've gotten a lot of prophetic words from different people. This is the cool thing. When you get a word of encouragement from one person, and it's like, oh, that's cool. But when you get almost the same word from like one person on one day, and then a week later another person, and a week later another person, and then you start thinking like, maybe God is actually speaking to people and wanting them to share.
Maybe he's actually speaking to me, I don't know.
Right. And so for me, the word has been in general regarding leadership in terms of influence, that God's going to be bringing me the ability to influence in my work world, where I'm at, as a math teacher, as a leader in the school district, and then bigger picture, and I don't know if this is happening in the coming year, or maybe it's more like the coming decade, or maybe something bigger than that, but I feel like God's been calling me to have an influence in a positive way at the national level in terms of mathematics education.
That's awesome.
So who knows what that looks like, but Happy from our Urbana church always says, if the vision is something you can attain, is probably your ideas, which are not bad, but if the vision is something beyond what you can imagine, it's probably coming from God. And I have no idea how I could possibly impact even this local community, but I feel like it's got to be from God. But increase in our church, in the past 15 years or so, when I've been going to church here, but also in Urbana, not once have I ever heard any of the pastors or leaders say anything regarding our church is better than that church or that church. I've never heard that. I've always heard we're all part of the body. We all serve different roles. We all have strengths. And we all have weaknesses. And the thing is that the increase in this church, in this season, I feel like is going to be an increase in people's ability to connect with Father in an individual way. Increase in his presence, an increase in his presence in our lives. So I feel like get ready for it, because God's going to be bringing people into your life who have struggles that are maybe they're having a rough week. Maybe they have some physical pains. And you're going to have opportunities to say, hey, guess what? I happen to be friends with this guy who happened to be the creator of the universe. And I know that he can bring life and his presence into your situation, regardless if you end up coming to our church or not as a result of it. That's not the point. The point is we know the creator of the universe, and we are going to be bringing, all of us are going to be bringing his presence in an increased way over this next year.
Okay, we have time for one more of you to answer, so you guys can fight over the mic.
Go for it.
So when I think of increase personally, I'm glad you asked like what we do outside of the church, because that's the thing that I'm feeling the most increase about, that as I advance in my career with authority and influence and responsibility, and I'm already feeling that, I think in the corporate sense, I have an increase in responsibility, but I also think in a spiritual sense in my office, there's an increase happening for me to reach out to my coworkers and to just like insert nuggets of peace to the team. It's funny because I spent 3 years waiting for this job to open up in Normal, and when I interviewed, at the end of my interview I said, great, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And it wasn't arrogant. I knew that God was giving me that job. I had prayed a long time about that job, but the more I realized that it wasn't just the location, it was the people that I'm reaching. And just this last week, I was talking about how I had that mindset shift from Adam's sermon last week about having a renewed mind. And I had a coworker that came in, she was just negative about everything. And I stopped her and I was like, I'm really glad that you take on extra responsibility that you don't get noticed for. And she was like, darn you being positive when I'm trying to be negative. I said, I just needed a mindset shift, and this is what I'm going to continue forward with. And she said, tell me more about that. I need that. And she was one that had completely slammed the doors to faith. And I think that is the most increase that I have seen in God opening doors that have been slammed shut and locked.
Wow, that's so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Come Jesus.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you guys for your time. I know you guys have spent a lot of time this week praying over what you felt like the Father was saying and wanted to do. And so I hope you guys were encouraged through this, and that you guys can pull out a little bit of nuggets, and you can start looking like introspectively and say, okay, God, where do I want to partner with you in this next season? Where do I want to see increase in my life? Because you're wanting to partner with me in increase.
It's good.
And so I encourage you guys this week and throughout the next couple weeks, whenever you hear the word increase, you might think, oh yeah, that's church, but actually look out for it, because the word is everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It's everywhere. And so when you see the word increase, just pray about it. Okay, God, I see the word. It's in front of my face. We even have those little wristbands out there. They're blue. I think they're like $1 or whatever. If you guys want to buy a wristband, you can just put it on, and whenever you see it, it's blue and white, and you say, oh, increase. Yes, God, where are you partnering with an increase this month, this week, today even?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go ahead and invite our worship team up, and we're going to get ready for worship, and I'm going to pray us out, and you guys can go ahead and, do what you need to do. I can take the mic from you. So Jesus, I just thank you. I thank you for this day. I thank you, Father, for the hearts of these men and this woman that was up here, God, as they share their heart about what God's doing in them, not just only in the church, but in the marketplace. God, that the church is not inside the walls. God, the church is out there. And God, your heart for the people outside of these walls is bigger than our heart sometimes. And so, Father, this week, this month, this year, and in the years to come, Father, just help us partner with you in the increase that you want to release to this community.
Thank you, Father.
The increase to this community, this body of believers, but God, not just the body of believers inside the walls, but the body of believers outside the walls. God, as we partner with other churches and other organizations and just the people in our workplaces or in our neighborhoods, God, whatever the increase is, Father, that you want us to partner with you in, I pray, Father, right now that you will deposit that in people's hearts. That they can look beyond like their everyday, and they can say, God, I see where you want to take me. I see where you want me to go. And I see where you want to just increase in that situation. We thank you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.